A heart of gold. This is the story of Sarah, a woman whose kindness knew no bounds. Sarah was a beacon of hope in her community, always ready to lend a helping hand to those in need. She lived in a small town, a place where everyone knew each other, and everyone knew Sarah for her endless acts of kindness. She always had a smile on her face and a helping hand extended to anyone who needed it. Her generosity was boundless. Her heart was full of love for her neighbors, and she treated everyone like family. Sarah's presence brought warmth and comfort to the community. Sarah found immense joy in making others happy. Whether it was through small gestures or grand acts of kindness, she always knew how to brighten someone's day.
One sunny afternoon, I was tending to my garden, enjoying the tranquility of the day. The roses were in full bloom, painting the air with their sweet fragrance. Birds chirped melodiously, adding to the serene atmosphere. It was a perfect day, with clear blue skies and a gentle breeze that made everything feel just right.
But fate had other plans for that peaceful afternoon. Suddenly the phone rang, shattering the calm. Sarah, always alert, rushed inside to answer it. She picked up the receiver, her heart pounding with anticipation. On the other end was Mrs. Jenkins, her elderly neighbor, who had always been like a grandmother to Sarah. Mrs. Jenkins' voice was weak and shaky, filled with worry and fear. She needed help, she said. Sarah's heart sank as she listened to the distress in Mrs. Jenkins' voice. She knew something was terribly wrong and that she had to act quickly. Sarah's mind raced as she tried to think of the best way to help her dear neighbor. Without a moment's hesitation, Sarah grabbed her keys and headed out the door, determined to be there for Mrs. Jenkins in her time of need. As she drove to Mrs. Jenkins' house, Sarah's thoughts were filled with concern and a fierce determination to help. She arrived at the house and knocked on the door, her heart pounding with urgency. Mrs. Jenkins opened the door, her face lighting up with relief at the sight of Sarah. They embraced, and Sarah knew she was exactly where she needed to be. A cry for help. Mrs. Jenkins was scared. Doctors found a serious problem with her heart. She needed surgery and quickly, but the cost was too much for her. The news hit her like a ton of bricks. She had always been careful with her health, but this was something she couldn't have predicted. The thought of not being able to afford the surgery weighed heavily on her mind.
I don't know what to do, Sarah. The doctors say I need surgery soon, but I can't afford it. I've tried looking into my savings, but it's just not enough. The insurance won't cover it all, and I feel so helpless. What am I going to do?
Sarah listened intently. Her heart ached for Mrs. Jenkins. She promised to do everything she could. Sarah had known Mrs. Jenkins for years. She was like family. The thought of her suffering was unbearable. She knew she had to come up with a plan, and fast.
Don't worry, Mrs. Jenkins. I'll find a way to help you, I promise. We will get through this together. You are not alone in this fight. I will rally everyone I know, and we will find a solution.
Sarah knew she had to act fast. Hanging up the phone, Sarah felt a surge of determination. She wouldn't let Mrs. Jenkins face this alone. There had to be a way to help. She thought about all the people in their community who might be willing to lend a hand. She had to mobilize them. An idea sparked in Sarah's mind. What if she could get the word out to the entire town? There had to be a way to reach everyone quickly and effectively.
The local newspaper. It could reach everyone in town. If she could get Mrs. Jenkins' story published, maybe people would come forward to help. It was worth a shot.
Sarah grabbed her pen. She knew she had to write something compelling, something that would touch people's hearts and spur them into action. And paper. She began to write. She poured her heart into the letter, detailing Mrs. Jenkins' plight and the urgency of the situation. She hoped that by sharing this story, she could inspire the community to come together and help one of their own. As she wrote, she felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could save Mrs. Jenkins. A letter to the community. Sarah poured her heart into the letter. She wrote about Mrs. Jenkins, a pillar of their community. She described her warmth, her kindness, her delicious apple pies. The letter explained Mrs. Jenkins' situation. It spoke of the surgery, the cost, and the urgency. But most importantly, it called for help.
Please, dear neighbors, open your hearts. Any amount would make a difference.
With a hopeful heart, Sarah mailed the letter. She prayed it would reach kind souls. Now, all she could do was wait. A ripple of kindness. The next day, the local newspaper arrived on doorsteps. People read Sarah's heartfelt letter. They were moved by Mrs. Jenkins' plight. Word spread like wildfire. People talked in shops, at the post office, and in the park. Everyone was touched by Sarah's compassion. The community rallied behind Mrs. Jenkins. They remembered her kindness. She always helped at bake sales and volunteered at the library. People wanted to give back. They understood the importance of community. Everyone was eager to help Mrs. Jenkins get the surgery she desperately needed. Donations poured in, exceeding all expectations. Schools organized fundraisers. Local businesses contributed generously. Children donated their allowances. Elderly couples gave from their pensions. The entire town came together, proving that even small acts of kindness could make a big difference.
I was overwhelmed with gratitude. I witnessed the extraordinary power of community. My letter had sparked a flame of hope. Every dollar donated was a testament to the love and unity within our town. We were not just neighbors. We were a family, ready to support each other in times of need.
Sarah became an inspiration to everyone. Her simple act of writing a letter had ignited a chain reaction of generosity. She showed them the true meaning of compassion. She reminded them that even in the face of adversity, hope could blossom. People started noticing the little things they could do to help each other. They held doors open, offered a listening ear, and shared words of encouragement. The community hall buzzed with activity. People gathered to organize fundraisers, bake sales, car washes, and craft fairs were planned. Laughter and chatter filled the air. Strangers became friends, united by a common purpose. The energy was infectious. Children ran around, their faces glowing with excitement. They were learning the importance of empathy and the joy of giving back. Evenings were dedicated to making crafts and baking treats for the upcoming events. The spirit of unity and kindness was truly heartwarming. The day of the surgery arrived. Mrs. Jenkins was nervous but hopeful. She carried the love and prayers of the entire town with her. The surgery was a success. Mrs. Jenkins woke up feeling grateful and loved. She couldn't wait to thank everyone personally. News of her recovery spread quickly. Sighs of relief and cheers erupted throughout the town. They had done it. The collective sigh of relief was audible. They had saved Mrs. Jenkins' life. More importantly, they had rediscovered the power of compassion. Weeks turned into months. Mrs. Jenkins recovered speedily. She received cards and flowers from well-wishers every day. She sat on her porch, her heart brimming with gratitude. Watching children play, she realized the true miracle wasn't her recovery, but the love surrounding her. The town had transformed. People were more connected. They looked out for each other. Acts of kindness, big or small, became a way of life. Sarah's letter had not just saved Mrs. Jenkins. It had awakened the true spirit of their community. It was a testament to the power of unity and love.
Sarah, my dear girl, you saved my life. I can't express how much your kindness means to me. In my darkest moments, you were my light. You showed everyone what it means to be human. Your actions have touched not just my heart, but the hearts of everyone in this town.
Mrs. Jenkins, it wasn't just me. It was a collective effort. Everyone came together to help. The entire town played a part in this heartwarming story of love and compassion. From the smallest gestures to the grandest acts, everyone contributed.
Sarah visited Mrs. Jenkins regularly. Their visits became a cherished routine, a testament to the bond they had formed. They drank tea and shared stories, their bond unbreakable. Each visit was filled with laughter, memories, and a deep sense of connection. Sarah had become like a daughter to her. Their relationship was a beautiful blend of friendship and familial love. One afternoon, as they sat in the garden, Mrs. Jenkins took Sarah's hand. The garden, in full bloom, mirrored the blossoming of their relationship. Her eyes sparkled with tears of gratitude. She felt an overwhelming sense of love and appreciation for Sarah. Sarah smiled, her heart full. She knew that their bond was something special, something that would last a lifetime. She knew she wasn't alone in this. The support of the community had been a pillar of strength for both her and Mrs. Jenkins. The entire town had played a part in this heartwarming story of love and compassion. It was a reminder of the power of community and the unbreakable bonds that can form when people come together. The tale of Sarah, Mrs. Jenkins, and their small town became a legend. It was a reminder that even in a world often filled with darkness, light could prevail. It showcased the enduring spirit of humanity. It proved that kindness, compassion, and unity could move mountains. And most importantly, it emphasized that we are all interconnected, capable of extraordinary love and support for one another. The story echoed through the years, inspiring generations to come. It served as a beacon of hope, reminding everyone that even the smallest acts of kindness could create ripples of change, shaping a brighter future for all.